Greetings, I'm Dr. Ron Valenti, Superintendent of Schools in the Eastchester School District, and it's my pleasure to present to you the Superintendent's proposed budget for 2023-2024, a budget for our children. Looking at the big picture, there are certain non-negotiables I would like to review with you, the taxpaying community and parent community, as well as our staff and students. I'd like to take a look at our proposed tax levy for next year, some issues about inflation and the consumer price index, and what are some of the drivers of inflation that we're addressing in this budget. Here are our non-negotiables. Number one, we must remain below the 2% tax cap. Secondly, we want to remain below the inflation rate currently running at about 6%. Thirdly, we want this budget to provide programs for all students, kindergarten through 12th grade. Fourthly, it's important that every budget has revenue that equals or exceeds expenditures, namely a balanced budget. And finally, this budget will show you efficiencies that also will be producing some effective academic results. Here's very good news for everybody in Eastchester. Not only were we able to stay below the 2% cap, we are at zero for our proposed tax levy, perhaps the first time in the history of the Eastchester schools, but certainly as far as the history we've checked out, not in the last 25 years, quarter of a century, has the district experienced 0%. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you ask the question as the average taxpayer, current year assessment is about $8,500 for each property, and next year, let's assume it's the same amount. Your current tax rate is running at about $1,581 for each $1,000 of assessed value. We are proposing for next year actually a slight deduction of $1,580 per $1,000 of assessed value. So your tax bill will literally be going down, on average again, $8. Now, there are many other variables that affect the tax bill, but from our perspective, we're at zero. We're flat, and we will be bringing you all of these programs without asking the taxpayer to pay any additional more dollars next year than you're currently paying this year. Obviously, if inflation is at 6% and the tax rate is zero, we're well below inflation. So let's take a deeper dive into the revenue and the expenses. We're looking at revenue of $101,856,200, which is an increase of about 5.9% over our current year budget. So we're looking at approximately a $5.6 million increase in our revenue, and a good portion of that is our foundation aid. When we look at our revenue and take a deep dive, the local levy will be approximately the same it is this year, $79 million and change. The state aid is what's taking a bounce up of $3.5 million more, and that is what's enabling us to maintain the 0% tax levy. Our county sales tax will be about $1.9 million, tuition from other districts $2.1, appropriated fund balance, which means money's left over this year, will be applied to next year as well to help keep the tax levy at zero. And then we do have some miscellaneous revenue through income, through interest, rentals, recovery, again, as you can see, for the total $101.8 million revenue estimate. If you break that down in a pie chart, the taxpayer is still paying a hefty amount, 78%. State aid has gone up a little bit to 16%, and the other miscellaneous revenues I noted would be 6%. Let's talk a little bit about expenses. As I mentioned earlier, they're up about 5.9% over current year budget of $96.2 million, or we're looking at about $5.6 million in order to bring innovative programs K-12. When you look at that over the three categories that we report to New York State, program, capital, and administrative, approximately 74% of our monies will be spent on program, teachers, instruction, children, learning, materials, supplies, everything that contributes to our children performing well today and even better tomorrow. Our capital expenditures, ranging from our operation, maintenance, facilities, to our capital expenditures in busing and transportation, will be about another 15% of that budget, and the remaining will be our administrative support at the building and district levels, approximately 11%. So again, using a pie chart, you can see most of our money goes where? Obviously to the instruction of our children. A smaller amount goes to transportation, maintaining our facilities and fields, and then the smallest amount is dedicated to our administrative leadership. Here's something of concern. Hopefully it's only this year and will not persist, but in this budget that we're proposing, health insurance is up 7% over current year. Transportation contracts are up 18% over current year. Our energy costs, like yours at home, in electricity, gas, and oil, are up 20%. And our general insurance, again, is up 11%. So, like every homeowner, the district is experiencing inflation drivers that you will see in the line item budget that we are presenting. I'd like to spend a minute talking about New York State indicators for school districts and how we perform under a fiscal stress test. In this day and age where money is not easily obtainable and every dollar counts, there are concerns we have, but as far as the test goes, we do quite well. The first test of stress for a district is, do you have a maintained acceptable cash flow? That is to say, are you able to pay your bills without borrowing? And is there enough money there come end of year? Affirmatively, yes, we're in good shape. Second test is your operating deficit. Does your revenue equal or exceed your expenditure? Well, obviously, in our case, it not only equals, but we're estimating that we will have money at the end of the year, not only for appropriated surplus, but also for absorbing some additional costs that may have been incurred during the year. So again, two yeses on very important indicators. What about your end-of-year balance? Does your unappropriated fund balance equal or exceed the 4% allowable by the state? Again, a firm yes there. The state allows you to maintain 4%, or in our case, about $4 million going into next school year in our unappropriated fund balance. And finally, does the district need to borrow to meet current year expenditures? Absolutely not. Our cash flow is strong. We're able to meet payroll and all other expenditures. So from a stress point of view, we're in very good shape. But there are concerns on the horizon. I mentioned earlier persistent inflation. Obviously, there are higher interest rates than we would like. That could be construed as a two-edged sword. To some degree, we are collecting more money on our available cash, but we're also paying higher fees, rates to vendors, etc. There is upward pressure on some of the positions we have recruited for and will be recruiting for. It is more expensive to hire school nurses. We've experienced that this year. There are certain positions in the business office and other areas where we're going to be paying more in a very competitive environment. So the inflation drivers affect multiple areas that we experience as a school district. Next, let's take a quick walk through enrollment. I'm going to ask you a test, a thought experiment. Over the next 5 years, do you expect your district enrollment here in Eastchester, grades K to 12, do you expect that enrollment will A, stay the same, B, increase by 6%, or C, decrease by 6%? Is it A, B, or C? Are you ready for the answer? Our enrollment will decrease by 6%. If I had a class in front of me, I'd say put up your hand if you got it correct. But today, our enrollment is 3,039 students. Tomorrow, 5 years into the future, we're going to be 173 students fewer. According to our demographic projections, will be at 2,866, which is a decline of 6 students. We had this survey conducted in order to begin planning in a 5-year and 10-year basis, and this was done by Western Suffolk BOCES for us earlier this year. So these numbers are fairly accurate and on target. So when you look at that trend from this year, 3,039, and you look at fiscal year 27, 5 years away, you can see that that decline is going in one direction. We're declining 26 students for next year, 61 the following, 22 in fiscal year 26, and finally 64 in the last year, totaling 173 students, or 6%. That means we're going to have to take a close look at class-student ratios, staffing, etc. And unless we arrest that trend and change it, there will be reductions in staff over the next several years. Here are some solutions we ought to look at as a district if we want to reverse the decline. Certainly a pre-kindergarten program, assuming we were able to find additional room and space, would increase our enrollment by 200 students in pre-kindergarten. We are looking to increase our tuition-paying students, both through specialized student with disability programs and innovative programs. It's important that we look at the migration from 5th to 6th, 8th to 9th grade, and any slippage that we're able to reduce there. Of course, we do know students will be going to private parochial schools. That's natural for districts in Westchester, but how can we keep that number as low as possible? And then we did institute an early incentive retirement program for our teachers that really is benefiting us as a district. Let me explain why. First of all, this 2-year retirement program allows us to adjust sensibly to the enrollment decline. We are able to maintain full employment for next year with our experienced teachers, and for the positions we're abolishing, approximately 4, we don't need to do outside recruitment. We're able to provide savings in breakage, approximately $400,000, with this retirement program in the first year. It allows us to take a look at each current position and adapt it where needed to future initiatives, like our coaches and mentors, and it allows us to raise the certification bar. So, as I mentioned, we're eliminating 3 K-5 positions. I will show you where precisely. We're restructuring certain positions, one of which is federally funded, an SEL library position at Waverly, and how we are maintaining SEL and library, even though we are not maintaining that particular position. I want to talk a little bit about our intervention coaches and our academic instructional services. Let's start with Waverly. Next year, kindergarten, we're anticipating 220 students. That would be 10 sections, 22 children per section, so there would be no change there. But in first grade at Waverly, we have only a class enrollment of 183 students, well below our normal average of 220. So there we would need only 9 sections, approximately 20 first graders per teacher, but that would also allow for a net reduction of 1 teacher at Waverly, but maintain an excellent class size of 1 to 21 overall. At Ann Hutch, again, as you look at the grade levels, we are pretty much maintaining 5 sections at grades 2, 3, and 4. Very good class sizes, 21, 22. In 5th grade, we'll have 98 students, and we think 4 teachers or sections there would allow us to maintain a 24 per student class ratio, and on average for Ann Hutch, 1 to 22, with a net reduction again of 1 position. Finally, at Greenvale, which is the largest of the 3 elementaries, 493 students, you will see we're maintaining sections of 6 in grades 2 and 3, sections of 5 in grades 4 and 5, and again, our numbers are within the 21 to 24 range, on average 1 to 22, which very respectable numbers in terms of instruction, and again, a net reduction of 1 for a total of 3 across the 3 schools. Middle school, we're below 700 pupils. We're above this year, but next year we'll dip slightly below, and we'll have 30 sections, grades 6, 7, and 8 for the average class sizes you're looking at. Of course, those numbers modulate simply because we have electives and a number of other programs which lower the average class size. And at the high school, again, we're dipping below 1,000. We'll be at 978 students, and in terms of sections or class size, that really is more a function of your constants and your electives. So what are some of the new programs we're looking at? Let's first begin at the elementary level and then move into the middle and high school. At Waverly, we're looking at a FLES program. We'll talk more about that. We're adding 2 additional staff. At Ann Hutch, we're looking at an additional math AIS teacher. And at Greenvale, again, an additional math AIS teacher to support our students and help us move from 68% proficiency to 80% on average, grades 3 through 8, based on state testing. We're also looking at 1 literacy coach, a new position across the 3 schools, where we'll be having each of those coaches, math as well as literacy, spending 2 days at each of the schools, helping to support the new programs in the science of reading and literacy across Waverly, Ann Hutch, and Greenvale, and the Reveal program, likewise our math program, across Waverly, Ann Hutch, and Greenvale. Those coaches will be in classrooms mentoring teachers, supporting teachers, doing lesson plans with teachers, modeling lessons, and so forth to help ensure the efficacy of the curriculum that we have. I mentioned earlier raising the certification bar as we look at recruitment. Currently, for a classroom teacher, Eastchester requires, under state law, elementary certification pre-K to grade 6. We want more than that going forward. We want not only the pre-K to 6 certification, We're going to require that every teacher we hire minimally has either K-12 literacy or reading or special education. And if they're not there in the instant of the hiring, during the course of their probationary period, would work toward one of those additional certifications. Again, for our teachers at the middle and high school, we generally have a secondary 7 to 12 content area. We'd like more than that in new hires. We want not only the content certification, for example, English, social studies, science, earth science, whatever the case may be. Additionally, we want middle school extension, which allows for methodology and teaching at grades 6, 7, and 8. And again, K-12 special ed, reading, or literacy. And finally, for our remedial and ARS teachers, we would like to see not only the normal certification of pre-K to 6, but additionally a literacy, reading, and or special ed required, and then additional one preferred. So we are raising the bar. We are looking for more trained, qualified teachers going forward. The programs I'm about to show you were shared with the community in an earlier survey back in February. 85% of our respondents, over 500, indicated support for these initiatives. So let's go by priority strategically. And as you know, for this year, strategic priority 1 is to increase school security, which we can't emphasize enough based on what is happening throughout our nation. We would like one full-time school resource officer on each of our 4 school campuses, and we will have that for next school year. We'll have one at the middle high school, one at Waverly, one at Ann Hutch, and one at Greenvale. And we're able to do that with a wonderful partnership that we've established with our town, where the district will pay for 3 of the school resource officers, and the town will absorb the cost of the 4th. That meeting was held in March with our town partners. Supervisor Calavita and the town board voted unanimously with the Eastchester Board of Education to have an arrangement that would fully support SROs and partner with the town. We also have in this budget enhanced security guard coverage. At our elementary campuses, we want security beyond 3 p.m. There are children in this school with staff up to 6 p.m. at different extracurricular programs, and we need guard coverage anytime student or staff are in the building. We also need very careful monitoring of who enters our schools during those critical times. At the secondary campus, we can't have guards leaving at 3 p.m. anymore. We need individuals at the middle high school there until 10 p.m. We're running full athletic programs, theater programs, an assortment of extracurricular programs, all wonderful for our students. But unless we provide the necessary safety for our staff and children, we're not doing it the right way. So you will look at the 1600 section of our budget, and when you look at that particular code, it'll be going from about $500,000 this year to well over $1 million next year in order to ensure safety for all student and staff. Strategic priority 2, we want to strengthen academic outcomes. Beginning at Waverly, we'd like to introduce a 3-year plan. Kindergarten and first grade will be exposed to a foreign language elementary school program in Spanish this September. We'd like to expand that to Ann Hutch and Greenvale in September of 24, grades 2, 3. and finally in the third year, grades 4 or 5, so that we introduce it gradually and absorb the cost of staff over a 3-year period. I think it's well acknowledged that the 21st century world languages are English, Spanish, and Mandarin. So with a FLES Spanish program, we're definitely accomplishing K-12 English to Spanish, and we do have Mandarin at the secondary level and need to investigate expansion of that program. So what is FLES? It really is a functional proficiency program, in our case in Eastchester in Spanish. And what does the proficiency highway look like? Speaking and listening skills. Kindergarteners and first graders will learn I and other people and places. So it's part geography, it's part cultural learnings, it's part expanding and exposing my view as an individual child into the broader global view. And it's a rich program that will be on a 6-day cycle, 20 minutes each day of direct instruction. Over a 5-day period would be 100 minutes. And then in that 6-day cycle, 45 minutes for one day. So we're looking at a total of 145 minutes every 6 days, which is what the research requires. We also would like to expand our global languages currently at the middle school in grade 7 to grade 6. We'd like to see French, Italian, and Spanish on alternate days in our middle school grade 6 curriculum. And every student, every 6th grader will be exposed to each of those languages, and only then will they and the family select a grade 7 world language. So this cafeteria style will allow our grade 6 students to make informed choices based on the language, the culture they're exposed to, and then choosing a language for grade 7. We'd like to introduce a strong study skills program beginning in grade 6. Again, that would be on alternate days for a semester, a total of 45 sessions, and it would include not only helping our incoming 6th graders transition comfortably into a secondary learning environment, which is very different than grade 5, but it would give them a series of skills ranging from time management, note-taking, organizational skills, testing and studying skills, problem-solving, critical thinking, and the good news, in addition to the skills, is that it will begin to reduce and or virtually eliminate some of the study halls we currently have in today's schedule for our 6th grade students. We'd like to recruit a study skills teacher who is certified in either English, grade 7 to 12, or math, who has a middle school certification extension, an elementary certification because it is grade 6, and who will provide 45 hours of academic and transitional support to every 6th grader. Again, we want to see our ELA and math scores improved. You heard me mention additional math support together with ELA, AIS support, and would like to begin with this spring looking at proficiency rates improving from currently in the aggregate 68% here in Eastchester to 80% next school year. This will allow Eastchester to begin to become one of the top 10 most competitive Westchester school districts. So this is the first year, and we anticipate over the next few years to be able to be in that category. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to increase our math AIS teachers from half-time to full-time at our 2 middle elementary schools. We're going to provide a literacy coach in classes K to 5 and a math coach to mentor and support classes, again, K to 5. We'd like to see departmentalization in at least ELA and math in grade 5. It will have an impact on the other content areas. But this will also allow for a shift from generalists, where a 5th grade teacher is teaching not only ELA and math, but science and social studies, to allow teachers to move toward specializing in either ELA or math or science or social studies, and focusing on that content area and allowing our students to begin to experience a little bit of what a secondary teaching model is like and transition to that before they actually get to grade 6. Another area that we want to focus on is the win period. As you know, the win period, what I need is in its first year, this year, and it currently provides support in AIS for students at Waverly 45 minutes a day and Hutch and Greenvale 60 minutes a day. We would like to provide a more structured curriculum in this fashion. Number one, we want to continue to support students with special needs. Number two, we want to help struggling learners master ELA and math deficiencies. But number three, and this is going to be new, a challenging curriculum for those students who are proficient or mastery level and can take advantage of an accelerated program while other children are addressing their individual needs. So we'll be working on that this spring semester and summer and introducing that in September. Staying with the middle school, we want to expand our Algebra Regents program. Currently, we're at about 45%, or about half of our 8th graders taking Algebra Regents. We'd like to increase that number to 75%. We want to include our regular and special students in this expansion. And if need be, we're willing to provide the staff for 9 periods of intervention in Algebra Regents as opposed to the normal 6 with the same teacher over a 6-day period. I think of importance here is the option in or out. Parents could say, I want my child in if not selected for the program, or if a child is selected and a parent believes that the program may be a little bit too difficult and their child is not ready, they also have the option out as well. In looking at our writing program at the middle school, we believe we need a structured writing program, grades 6, 7, and 8. We want to strengthen our students' analytical skills and writing across all content areas using multiple genres, poetry, prose, narrative, explanatory, etc. The idea being that it's not a separate writing class, but all of our teachers, beginning with our ELA and social studies teachers, will be trained in techniques to strengthen student writing. A program for our special pupils, a flexible learning therapeutic structure program. We'd like to have one class at the middle school and one at the high school, providing the least restrictive environment under federal law for students who are out of district, who we'd like to bring back, and in-district students who could benefit from this program. We anticipate 2 separate classrooms. Each of them will have an assigned school psychologist and teaching assistant. Right now we're looking at 4 students returning from BOCES or other out-of-district placements into the place they should be, the least restrictive environment. And it does give us options for students currently in our district grades 6 to 12. Under academic outcomes, we'd like to increase our advanced placement participation rates by overall 10%, and perhaps identifying certain AP courses that all students could have access to. Finally, we want to look very carefully at strengthening our college, career, and counseling services in a few ways. One, we want to take a hard look at district support to help our students with their PSAT, SAT, and ACT tests, and can we provide support within the school day as well as beyond the school day. And secondly, we'd like to recruit a director of college, career, and counseling services who helps us focus on the college acceptance process and career training choices. And to that end, we do have a tri-state visit in April of this year to look carefully at 9 to 12, what we're accomplishing, the good work we are doing, and what are some recommendations going forward. Under athletics, we've begun leadership training for our varsity JV and modified coaches, something new that we've not done before, as well as for our athletes. We want to continue that, and we want to support a 5-year plan to strengthen our phys ed athletic programs and our need for fields and an ongoing need to expand fields. We also have in this budget money for a summer school that will be expanded at Ann Hutch. It will be expanded beyond the special needs program and Regents preparation to E&L and also to our elementary students, kindergarten through 8th grade. We're going to have a section of each in ELA and math. We encourage parents to take a hard look at this, have your children sign up in one of the morning sessions, 8 to 9:30 or 9:45 to 11:15. And there'll be 2 sessions, as you can see, one beginning on July 3rd and the second later in the month, July 24th, going to August 10th. Finally, we're transferring to capital $1.7 million. The biggest investment will be close to $1 million in all new playgrounds with fencing at Waverly, Ann Hutch, and Greenvale. Our current playgrounds are antiquated. They're not as safe as they ought to be, and we need this summer to ensure safe new playgrounds for all of our K-5 children. We're doing some additional work on the baseball field in Ann Hutch, approximately $23,000 there, and some work with the Waverly Field bleachers. At our elementary school, we want some additional upgrades at Waverly with the retaining wall, windows at Ann Hutch, and boiler work at Greenvale totaling $290,000. And then we think under the district it's time to move into the 21st century with a new LED message board for the community, upgrading our athletic facilities, and continuing work on roof units at the high school for a total of $400,000 plus. And this equals $1.7 million transfer to capital. Where do we go from here? On March 28th, we had a budget program preview with the board. Our next meeting is April 18th, where the board will again review the budget with the community and adopt the budget by law. Then again, there'll be a hearing on Tuesday, May 2nd, to which the community will be invited in person or streaming. And finally, there will be a budget according to state law for all districts on May 16th, Tuesday, and the public budget vote will occur. I thank you for your listening, and if you have any questions or comments, please email me at the school district, and we'd be happy to respond to you directly or at a future budget session, April 18th. Thank you very much, and have a great day.